All right, we live in this world of just constant information, constant competition. It's so easy to feel anxious, right? To feel conflicted. But what if the solution isn't some new productivity app? What if it's an upgrade for our mental operating system, one drawn from ancient wisdom? Let's dive in and see how we can find that kind of clarity.
I mean, do you ever feel trapped? You know that feeling? Like you're just running on this endless treadmill of stress, constantly worrying about success, about failure, about what everyone else thinks. That feeling of being stuck, it's one of the biggest challenges we face today. But the ancient texts we're going to look at, well, they suggest a pretty radical way out.
Okay, so here's the absolute heart of it. The problem often isn't the world out there. It's the framework in here. It's how we're seeing it. You know, our minds are the ones that build the cage, which sounds kind of bleak, but it also means we're the ones holding the keys.
So, let's talk about this mind trap. Think about it. Our brains evolved to survive, right? They created these super fast shortcuts, dividing the world into simple boxes: good, bad, us, them, win, lose. And hey, that was really useful for a long, long time. But in the incredibly complex world we live in now, that same black and white thinking becomes a trap. It's actually the root of so much of our anxiety.
So, how do we break free? We're going to look at two ancient keys to unlock a whole new way of thinking. And look, forget about dusty old books sitting on a shelf. I want you to think of the Diamond Sutra and the Tao Te Ching as powerful, practical tools. Seriously, like software for a complete cognitive upgrade.
All right, key number one comes from the Diamond Sutra, and its whole deal is about shattering the illusions our own minds create to find real clarity. It all kicks off with this really powerful and often misunderstood concept called emptiness.
Now, when you hear emptiness, it's easy to think of, well, nothingness, a void. But that's not it at all. It's actually this incredibly profound idea that nothing, absolutely nothing, exists all on its own. Everything from you listening to me right now to our biggest, scariest problems, it all comes from this massive web of interconnected causes. And if nothing has a fixed, permanent self, that means our problems aren't as solid and permanent as they feel.
And this verse, wow, it just captures the idea so perfectly. The world we see and feel, it's as temporary as a dream, a bubble, a flash of lightning. Trying to hold on to it, to control it, is literally like trying to grab a shadow. So what's the lesson? It's an invitation to just loosen our grip. Stop clinging to outcomes we can't control and actually find some peace right here, right now.
And this idea of not being attached, it's taken to a pretty radical place. The sutra actually warns that even clinging to good things, like the idea of wisdom, can be its own trap. The metaphor is brilliant. A diamond in your eye blocks your vision just as much as a speck of dust. The goal isn't to collect shiny concepts. It's total clarity, with nothing in the way.
So to get to that clarity, the sutra says we have to break through 4 core illusions. First, this idea of a permanent separate me. Second, the hard line we draw between ourselves and other people. Third, these rigid boxes we put ourselves and others in, group identities. And finally, the illusion of a fixed lifespan, which is what fuels our fear of death. That feeling that I am totally separate from you, or that my job is my life. According to this wisdom, those are the very illusions that create our suffering.
All right, let's move on to our second key, which comes from the Tao Te Ching. Now, if the Diamond Sutra is all about seeing through illusion, the Tao is about how to move through the world once you see it clearly. It's about aligning ourselves with the natural flow of, well, everything.
And the very first line of the book is famous for a reason. It basically says that the true Tao, the ultimate reality, can't be explained with words. Language can point you in the right direction, for sure, but it isn't the destination. We have to feel it, to experience it intuitively, not just think about it. It's a huge call to trust our gut, our intuition, way more than our constantly churning analytical minds.
The Tao Te Ching describes how the universe unfolds in this just beautiful, logical way. It starts with pure unity. Then that one splits into two. You've heard of them, yin and yang. And when those two forces interact, they create a third thing, harmony. And from that harmony, everything else, the entire complex world we know, is born.
And this is where Taoism just completely flips our modern binary thinking on its head. Opposites aren't enemies fighting each other. They literally create each other. Think about it. You can't have high without low. You can't know difficult without easy. They define each other. They depend on each other. It's all a dynamic, harmonious dance.
So, let's put these two philosophies side by side for a second. The Diamond Sutra, it says reality is empty of any fixed self, so we should let go of our rigid concepts and act without attachment. The Tao Te Ching, it says reality flows from the formless Tao, so we should trust our intuition and follow the natural way. Two different paths, but look where they end up, a higher state of freedom and harmony.
Okay, this is all great, very philosophical. But how does this ancient wisdom actually help us today in our real lives? Let's get practical. How do we apply this stuff at work, or just in our day-to-day? Okay, the Diamond Sutra has this amazing line, dwell nowhere yet give rise to the mind. In a modern workplace, what does that mean? It means focusing completely on the process, on the work itself, instead of being anxiously obsessed with the result. This creates what you could call low internal friction. Now compare that to our modern default mode, high internal friction. We waste so much energy on fear of failure, anxiety about success, regret about the past. When you let go of that constant clinging, you free up a ton of mental space for actual creativity and teamwork.
And what about leadership? The Tao Te Ching has this idea of governing by non-interference. Now, that doesn't mean doing nothing. It means not messing things up by acting recklessly. A truly great leader trusts their team. They empower people, give them autonomy, and act as a guide, not a micromanager who's a bottleneck for every decision. They create an environment where creativity can actually flourish, instead of crushing it with constant control.
And there's this fantastic Taoist metaphor that just nails this idea. It says, governing a large country is like cooking a small fish. Think about it. If you're cooking a delicate piece of fish, the more you poke and prod and flip it, the more likely it is to just fall apart. It's the exact same for any complex system, whether it's a company or a team. Too much interference just creates chaos. Real leadership is knowing when to step back.
The Tao also teaches us something pretty counterintuitive about strength. It says true resilience isn't about being rigid and hard. It's about being adaptable. It points to water. Water is the softest thing, right? But it can wear away the hardest rock. Why? Because it doesn't fight. It doesn't crash against things. It adapts. It flows around them. And over time, its persistence wins. So this isn't about being weak. It's about being smart. A flexible approach will always find a path forward.
So let's bring these two powerful philosophies together. Because when you integrate them, you don't just get a handful of nice tips and tricks. What you get is a fundamentally new operating system for your mind, a way to have a truly unbound mind. Here's a really simple way to picture how they work together. The Diamond Sutra, that's the sharp blade that cuts through your illusions, your attachments, your fears. And the Tao Te Ching, that's the flowing river that helps you navigate around obstacles with flexibility. You put them together, and you've basically built yourself a powerful psychological immune system.
So, what's in your new cognitive toolkit? When you feel that fear of failure creeping in, use the idea of emptiness to dissolve it. When life throws you a curveball, use the wisdom of the Tao to stay calm and find a way to flow with it. When you're dealing with people, practice Buddhist compassion. When you're facing conflict, practice Taoist adaptability. See? These aren't just abstract ideas. They're real, practical tools.
And that brings us to one last question. Something for you to think about. If all the things we cling to, our ideas about success, our identity, even our own opinions, are basically just illusions, like shadows, which one is causing you the most stress right now? And which one are you ready to let go of first?